Hello everyone, and welcome to Domina. You are here because you want to become the greatest lanister in the land, and raise your ludus to more than a pile of piss. I will show you how we intend to do this. The first decision you will have to make in your ludus is which employees you will hire. This is the single most important decision you are going to make in your ludus. The first and probably most important employee you can hire is the architect. He can build additions to your ludus that stay even after he leaves. The reason this is important is the architect is the only character that provides water, food, and wine all in one unit that persists after he leaves. The reason this is so important is you can buy food and water from the city market, but there will be droughts and floods which affect food and water supplies. If you don't have food and water to feed your gladiators, you cannot continue. So the architect is very powerful. However, before you go off, looking at these, the hourglass is how many turns it takes, or how many days it takes to build this. So I'd recommend building the palace first. It only takes 3 turns, then stones and the coal pit, which decreases, the palace decreases training time, the stones increase strength, and the coals decrease agility. After you've completed these, you can build whatever you would like, but I'd actually recommend the baths next, because it both increases morale and decreases injury. The second employee is the Fabber. Very, very important character. He allows you to repair damaged equipment for free, which is very important. He can also allow you to automatically upgrade your equipment on a random gladiator free of cost. You can manipulate this in the early game by selling gladiators you do not intend to use. You have to be careful because you don't want to run out of gladiators. However, if you really get in a pickle, you can always purchase gladiators from the legislate. If you really like slaves, you can purchase slaves, but I prefer my gladiators to already be pre-trained. But you'll get tons of gladiators anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. The other great thing about the Fabber, and the thing that you should do first, is armor blueprints. Everything except for helmets and shields are considered armor, which means that the pauldrons, the chest plate, the skirt, and the greaves all are considered armor. So by upgrading one thing, you can make all those things significantly cheaper. Those are probably the most expensive parts, and the more important parts you'll be upgrading on your gladiator, which is very useful. He also makes weapons cheaper, as well as repairing faster and allowing you to rebuild nets, but those are the things I mentioned are things you should focus on early on. The third character, and probably one of the more powerful, is Fabricatus. Fabricatus has very quick research times at only 1 turn, and he can turn water into wine, increase your gladiator's defense, strength, and agility, as well as healing your gladiators and occasionally upgrading your gladiators' weapons. That one's not as important because, well, I'll mention that in a second. Those are your 3 main employees. However, you eventually fire the architect once you've built all of these things. You can fire him sooner if you do not want one of these things. However, you can never rehire him. So I'd recommend building everything. But once you've built everything, you can fire the architect because he'll be of no further use, and hire a new employee. You can only have 3 employees at a time, so you have to choose wisely. The 3 I would choose between are the bard, the educator, and the agritor. The Medicus and the agent are interesting. The Medicus allows you to heal really, really fast, However, for the most part, you shouldn't really need that, especially considering that most of the characters provide a base healing effect. The agent can allow you to steal items, spy on people, and do pick fights, but for the most part, doesn't have a huge effect like the other ones. Starting with the Agritor. He gives you a base +4 food just for buying him. He then provides +4 food for each research. That's 20 food per day, which is an insane amount. You can sell that food on the market for extra money. Say 7 food is already 1 gold, so you're up 3 gold a day. Not a huge amount, but if you droughts and stuff when you need food, very, very useful character to have around. The second one is the Bard. Bard has a variety of songs which boost training speed, increase morale, and healing. Okay, just so you guys can see all that. So, however, the Educator would be my pick. He has Focus, which decreases all training times in 1 research, only 4 turns. Psychology reduces the shame from a loss or surrender. Anatomy, which is very powerful, increases attack damage and critical chance. Increases max stamina and stamina recharge rate. Allows gladiators to heal more quickly. And increases AI fighting proficiency. So, those would be my picks for employees. Continuing on to the Doctore. Once you've done humility and aimed attack, I'd move on to blade control, aimed defense, evasive roll, and shield control in that order. From then on, it's kind of up for debate. I would not recommend getting either of the trainings because they take a long time, they're expensive, and you will get those gladiators automatically from fights as rewards, and you can also purchase them from the legate. So generally I find those are not worth it, and also the ones you get from the from tournaments are going to be already partially trained, or the ones from the gate are already going to be partially trained. It takes a very, very long time to train people up from slaves, so I would not recommend that anyway, because you can only train people who are slaves and have not yet picked a class. I'll just show you this, which you guys, if you played, already know that you can get to select a class. So from there on, I often do disarm weapon, weight training, and attack vector. Disarming weapon, if you disarm your opponent of a weapon, you can pretty much kill them extremely easily. Weight training is kind of good if you get heavy armor and weapons for your gladiator, and then attack vector increases attack speed, which is awesome. Wolf Coolidge is a very interesting one for late game because it allows your gladiator to have more victories before they appeal for release, but not always a huge one, especially considering attack shuffle takes 17 turns to research. So I would continue to polearm defense, deep breathing, and grip techniques, because as I mentioned, a gladiator who loses his weapon is as good as dead. I would then do net defense, just to protect yourself from any nets. And then you can pretty much get whatever you feel is fit. Pretty much everything from this point is open to interpretation, what you would like. The only thing I'd note is automatic yield and berserk are opposites. If you get automatic yield, you cannot get berserk, and if you get berserk, you cannot get automatic yield. Just a note. So I have not had much experience with mind control, so you can take your pick whether or not you want to do this. The one huge boost I'd 100% recommend for anybody, not just beginners, is checking Enable Gladiator Training. Enable Gladiator Trainer automatically makes your gladiators train over and over again. There's no reason not to do it, and otherwise you have to click train every time. So always have that checked. Another quick tip you can do is, okay, so fire at the beginning, fire all your gladiators and keep your 2 main gladiators you're going to use. Then send wine until they are pleased. You can then suggest patronage. They become a patronage of one of your 2 remaining gladiators. If you have slaves remaining, that slave could be picked. Do the same with the magistrate.
Agreed.
And then you can get your other one under patronage. This saves you food and water for the gladiator. If these are your 2 main gladiators, you are effectively saving a lot of food and water. So my hint for the games, the first couple are extremely easy. We can probably even complete this one immediately. Let's see what we get. We only have 2 gladiators. You can bring 3 into this fight. Okay, if you're going to do this, upgrade the weapons. I believe my other guy has nothing upgraded. But these are totally unupgraded gladiators. You'll see how close we get. We might defeat them. We probably will actually die, which will be a poor showing. But you can see how these purely unupgraded gladiators, how well they're doing against him. Imagine if these guys were upgraded, how well you would do. Yeah. So, see, he has an extreme kind of disability to hit you. So, and this is 2 gladiators where you should have 3 gladiators. So you're going to be able to defeat him extremely handily. We'll just wait for this to finish. So I wouldn't do this early as well, but it's great because it gets you additional blessings very early. So after hidden points, defenses. So remember, always equip gladiators with any cards that will help them. Okay, because you can always recover cards. Same thing with employees. There's items that reduce the cost of an employee. We'll just say this is 10% less cost. If my Doctore isn't researching anything, say I want to research humility, and this is my card, I'm going to put it on the Doctore. Oops, sorry. Okay. And then I'll research whatever I want to research for the 10% reduction. Okay, and then my educator's done and I want to purchase something with him. I can move that item from him over to this character. So, or if you know a character's healing, say this is my main character, I know he's going to be healing. Ooh, did it go on? Oh shit, well whatever. Oh, I did get on him. I know he's healing, so I'm going to switch to this character. There's no loss for doing so. So always flip around your cards often. My third tip would be, let's do this. You can have a number of gladiators, okay, that you're using at once, okay? Do not upgrade a bunch of gladiators all over the place. I would focus on the core 4 or 5 gladiators. I would never do probably more than about 5. You do want quite a few. You never want to focus all your efforts into one gladiator, because there were some fights like we saw that include 4 or more gladiators in one fight. So you want to have a number of gladiators. Upgrade them pretty evenly. My other tip is for training, emphasize strength. Reason for this is agility is movement speed, weapon is attack damage, and defense is ability to resist attacks. If you look at strength, Strength is hit points, attack damage, and defense resilience in one skill. I'd also eliminate meditation because it's just the AA's attack efficiency. You get it from competing in battles automatically. So, see, we already actually got a Mermello if you look at it. So, we got a Mermello without researching Mermello, which is very expensive and time consuming. So those are my main tips for you guys. Feel free to let me know if you think you forgot anything, or if there's anything you'd like to see in a future guide. So thanks guys for coming out for more Domina, and we'll be back in the next episode for more. Thanks guys. Later.